so you can feel. I use my blood as oil paint. I can't be spilled. I stand in front of a tank. I can't be killed. The enemy done many things just to break my will. The crack era hit us hard. I can feel it still. The government ain't trying to tone for the way they deal. Remember, mom was calling God. The next day she doing hard. Is this rap going too far? I got way too many stars. As for mom, she a queen. We got a bond that white supremacy could never get between. And still our relationships need healing. Ain't no time or space for building. Oh, what a horrible feeling. Oh, what a horrible feeling. Having dreams, getting black like excellence. Like the heat, hopelessness of rise. You just can't keep it hidden. And it affects the ones around you. How's it nobody's business? My people now in our hood act like they tarnish our image. The violence always personal and political. The trauma's always spiritual and physical. Went from being a slave to a criminal. Transform, name me a mineral. This is not fictional, I'm literal. Me and Ma got 360 visuals. Famous we became individuals. In the melting pot, bunch of Skittles, boo. Living in America could be miserable. When you from that other side, treat you like you colorblind. Feeding you 100 lies. Everything psychologized is broke down to televised. Grew up on my mama's side. Really had a pop to mine. Losing love at a very young age from me to Columbine. I've been Eurocentralized. Numb in my inner sides. Hating my blackness is what you taught me to incentivize. FBI still when I sit aside and dead or alive. We still got a mission, we can't leave our kid in prison. I've been trying to live it different, I've been trying to live my visions outside. It's getting cold outside. It's getting cold. It's getting cold. Hard cold, watch I shine bright with a dark soul. My sharp flow might just raise hell. Only God knows. Dark clothes, hoodies and masks, black cargoes, raising poor. We giving shots after the bar close. In the door, I see it black and white like barcodes. Smoke is split from end up in space. When the stars glow, shot start. When I'm lost, I'm just grinding hard. Have to flip backs, it be hard. Try to find a job to take care of my means. So by any means, I have to get it on the scene. Me and my machine. You would think it's 420, how they hold the steam, how they hold the smoke. Niggas say hold the smokes, they don't want no smoke. This cloud, it'll make me choke. It ain't a joke, when I was broke, I had to scam and choke. And then I found it, it felt like moving mountains. Never thought I'd see my family move out of public housing. Try and keep my head above water like I'm drowning. I just keep it going, keep it flowing like a fountain. I grind for that top spot, cause my flow is top notch. And I always kept it cool in all the hot spots, connected like Wi-Fi. We eating like a partner, we hit them like a drive-by. As soon as they pop up, I had to pay the price, sacrifice to get my guap up. I just set my price, no debate until I'm cop up. Yeah, Tony back with it, big beans back flip it, flight after flight, I'm all over the map with it. I chase paper, that's major paper. New York mindset, it took me to hate my neighbors. Damn, looking back, really hope that they forget us. My body's freezing, surrounded by the demons. It's getting cold outside. It's getting cold outside. It's getting cold.
Peace, peace, peace. What's good, y'all? What's good?
AROCKS, shall I start?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Beautiful people. I don't see your faces, but I feel your presence. I know you're here, and I am happy to be amongst family. I want to thank you so much for joining us for the fifth and final installment of H.O.L.A's webinar series on non-traditional approaches to criminal justice, social justice, and healing justice. My name is Shonda Chapman. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'll be moderating the panel today. A little bit about myself before we begin. I am the director of the Girls of Color Initiative at the Mid Foundation for Women, where my work focuses on resourcing organizations that support leadership and organizing of girls of color and gender nonconforming youth of color across the country. I come to this work in a variety of ways. My background is in research and policy, but most importantly, I'm somebody who has been impacted by the criminal legal system, as have been my family and the communities that I love and care about. So this work is deeply important to me, deeply personal to me. I am also somebody who identifies as a Black American. I'm someone who identifies as queer, as a survivor, an abolitionist, and a feminist. Today's conversation is going to focus on nonprofit organizations that are deeply invested in our communities. And we're going to hear from a group of dynamic leaders of grassroots organizations who are going to shine a light on the work that they are currently doing. We'll talk about some of the struggles that organizations face, including funding and other nonprofit realities. We know that these organizations are often the first responders in our communities. We know that they're the first responders in our communities and that they are deeply, these communities are deeply disinvested in, and they sit at the intersection of multiple forms of oppression. At the same time, we know that organizations that serve communities of color are incredibly under-resourced. We know that as organizations and as leaders do this work, they are also navigating the same forms of oppression and injustice that they hope to disrupt. So as we journey to liberation on all fronts, we want to have a real and honest conversation about what organizations actually need to do this work sustainably as we go about the long and difficult work of creating healing and change in our communities. So with that, I'm going to bring on AROCKS, who's going to invite us into the space with libations, and afterwards I'm going to come back and introduce you to our truly amazing panelists and get this conversation going.
Once again, peace, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is the fifth webinar, but it's going to be beautiful, man. As always, we want to start off, after our welcoming, we want to start off and kick it in and bring our ancestors inside the building, because that is definitely the legacy we stand on, and there's so many. We want you to also bring in your ancestors, bring in your family, bring in the people that you know are just looking over you, that's with you every day, that you think about every day, that might not be here physically, but mentally and energy-wise, they in your life. So we just want to bring in our people, man. Want to go off and just say that we want to bring in the Black Seminoles and the Geechee people and all that. Let's talk about Gabriel Pasa. Let's talk about Demar Vesey. Let's talk about Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Stokely Carmichael, W.B. Du Bois, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Ella Baker, the Freedom Riders, Fred Hampton, Bunchy Carter, Jonathan and George Jackson, the Black Panthers, the Black Liberation Army, the Zapatista's family, was bringing Thomas from Fremont Free People, was bringing our big brother Eddie Ellis, the great founder of CNUS, one of the leaders of the Green Haven think tank. And yeah, we want to just bring in our families. I want to bring in my grandmother, grandma, father. Shout out to our family. If you're listening right now, you're looking right now, just shout out to our family members. Just bring them inside the space, because these are our ancestors, the ones who did for us, the ones who cared for us, you know. These are our ancestors. Peace to them, you know. And also, we want to talk about the land. We want to bring in the land, you know what I'm saying? Talk about this land that we in. We want to invite you to think about all who you are bringing into the space. And as we do this, we want to honor the indigenous land we are on and the legacies of the resistance and courage deeply seated in the souls that we are on. And think about the many people that died just so we could be here, just so we could be having a webinar. And just bring them in, you know. With that, just take a moment of silence, give ourselves like 30 seconds. Breathe in. Release. One more time. Breathe in. Release. Yeah, just think about your ancestors, man. With that, peace. Bring it back to Shawnda.
Hey, Rock. Thank you. Thank you so very much for really setting the tone for us and reminding people of why we do this work and the really sort of rich and deep legacy of activism and resistance that we stand on. We don't do this work alone. We never have and we never will. So with that, I would like to bring in the real reason that we're here, our really brilliant group of leaders. I'm going to introduce them one by one, so they'll start up here on your screen. I'll start with our first panelist, NaQuasia Pollard. NaQuasia is an advocate, an activist, and a direct service provider. She has been deeply involved in movements for social justice, drawing upon her own experience, 15 years of incarceration in a women's correctional facility at the age of 19 and being pregnant on Rikers Island. Upon her release in October 2017, she went to work at the Ladies of Hope Ministries, where she utilized her Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology and her minor in psychology that she earned in prison to support women impacted by incarceration. Her personal and professional goals are connected to her own experiences with systems that were supposed to support her but have instead failed her. As a result, NaQuasia is deeply committed to supporting women and girls impacted by systemic failures. Our second panelist, Marcellus Morris, is the executive director of Raise for Life. Marcellus was born in Miami, Florida, in Dade County, and left in a hospital by his biological mother, but he was lovingly adopted by Ms. Dorothea and Alfred Morris. As a youth, his family frequently moved around, and at the age of 6, family relocated to Philadelphia. During his time in Philadelphia, he was mentored by an American swim coach, Jim Ellis, of Pride, Determination, and Resilience. He's the subject of a feature film called Pride. Marcellus' family moved again to a troubled neighborhood in the south side of Chicago, Chi-Town represents. In Chicago, he became an excellent athlete, winning scholarships in 8th grade for football and basketball. After his father left the family in Chicago, Marcellus found a new family in the streets, like many of us. He became a gang member as a four-corner hustler under the notorious Vice Lords, and after numerous troubling situations with the law, he moved to Freeport, New York with his father. That trouble followed him, and 2 months before graduating high school, Marcellus was charged with first-degree robbery and sentenced to 7 to 21 years in prison. While in prison, Marcellus earned his bachelor's degree from St. John's. Upon entering society, he made a conscious decision to change the mindset of men and women in the community, and he's worked in the communities of Nassau and Suffolk counties as a gang specialist and conflict resolution professional for the past 7 years. He credits God for his growth and sustainability, and his journey as a community advocate for change has provided him the opportunity to be mentored and grown by great leaders, Mel Jackson, Suffolk County's Deputy Police Commissioner, and many others. Marcellus currently works as the program director for gang outreach and a case manager for the Nassau County Council of Thought and Action. He's the father of 4 amazing children, and we're excited to have him here today. Our next panelist, AROCKS, who you've heard from, Thomas AROCKS Porter is referred to AROCKS. He's a formerly incarcerated person spent 9 years in New York State Prison. He's one of the co-founders of H.O.L.L.A. AROCKS is a consultant, a senior mentor, a credible messenger for Arches and the Next Steps program located on the west side of Harlem. In the Arches program, he works closely with the Department of Probation to support and assist youth between the ages of 16 and 25 who are entangled in the criminal injustice and punishment system. An activist at his heart, AROCKS is sincerely passionate about making systemic changes in communities and has shared his experience with the criminal punishment system with many. He's done volunteer work with individuals and other community-based organizations, colleges, and community centers to promote social change. AROCKS believes in education and giving back as a way that he and others can indirectly support youth living in underresourced communities. Our next and final panelist, Juan Gomez, is the co-founder and executive director of Salinas, California. Am I saying this right? He's, Juan, you're going to get me right. You're the co-founder and executive director of NaQuasia. I got it. You know, every now and then you slide off and you slide back, and you're like, I'm back, baby. I'm not going to let this little Word document hold me down. You're back. So Juan Gomez is a member of the Papilan Cohilton Nation and descendant of Zikatakas Chimeka. I'm trying my best, but
That's good. It's good.
You're gonna get me right, but you know what? I always believe in trying, so we're gonna say it, brother.
I'm Papilanca with right, and Chicano, right? It's good right there.
Thank you. Juan is formerly incarcerated, politicized, circle keeper, and movement builder, and El Barrio community scholar. He's co-founder and executive director of NaQuasia. His work spans almost 20 years and includes integrating cultural healing into racial justice frameworks and practices that build next-generation leadership and infrastructure in support of formerly incarcerated folks and other survivors of state-sanctioned violence. Additionally, he routinely provides technical assistance for various initiatives where he co-creates healing-informed capacity building, training, and strategic facilitation. Juan gained valuable experience during his time at the California Endowment, working on boys and men of color issues. Mr. Juan Gomez was raised by his grandparents, Amelia and Marcellus. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. I just want to let y'all know that we're going to have a real-ass conversation. Like, not one of these, like, sanitized, we're going to, just say the things that make people feel comfortable. We're going to do it real, and we're going to do it the way that we normally do it. So let's get into it. I want to start by asking each one of you to tell me a little bit about who you are in the work, sort of what you're doing, and what legacy you're bringing here today. And I also, you know what, actually, I'm gonna ask you to do something a little different first, right? Because I feel like we get into the work often. But I want to know who we are, but beyond the work. Tell me who you are right now beyond the work that you do, and tell me what you would be doing if the revolution had come and there was no more change that we needed to do in the world, and you could just be, a free-ass person of color. Tell me what you would be doing. So who you are beyond your work, and what you would be doing if the revolution had come already. Let's start with that, and then we'll go around and get in to what we actually do. All right, NaQuasia, I'm gonna start on you. I'm gonna call you.
Okay.
Start.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, H.O.L.L.A, for inviting me and all the panelists and moderator. For one, who would I be without this work, right? I served, like you said in my bio, I did 15 years of incarceration. And my plans was to have my own construction company. We're all just women and just chicks, right? Doing the hard labor, So Like, that's who I like. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I like to do things and make change, but that's who I would be without the if the revolution was to come. I'd be a serial entrepreneur.
I love that. I love that. That gives me so much energy. Marcellus, I'm going to bring you in. Marcellus, who are you beyond your work? And what would you be doing if the revolution had come? And we didn't have any more of this work to do.
Paperwork. Well, I don't do paperwork anyway. Not enough of it. But beyond the work, I'm a father first and foremost. That consumes a lot of me, and just recently I'm learning how difficult it is, and give much respect to single mothers, because it's a difficult task to have a child and be responsible for that child 24/7. So I'm learning in that aspect to be a better father, put it that way. So I'm that. I like to teach chess. I write some poetry. And different stuff like that. But if the revolution was not applicable to us right now, I think I would just want to be a trip coordinator for kids and just be able to take them to different places across the United States.
I love that. And I got a couple kids you come get, take with you across the United States. So you're going to work on that.
I got a couple you pitch up too.
I love it. A-Rock, tell me who you are beyond the work and what you would be doing if the revolution had come. And we didn't need to be spending all our time creating a change that we're trying to do.
I often say, like, the work intersects in my real life too, even though it's all kind of real life. But who I am beyond the work, and definitely if the revolution was here, I think I still just be like this fun person, like this person that just want to go out, travel, get other people to travel, just have those moments of just sharing just mad love, just mad energy. That's who I am. So even in the work, that's who I am. And then outside the work, that's who I am. I'm always good. I'm always up talking about traveling, getting out, you know what I'm saying, getting away. And not trying to stay too much away, because I love New York City. I'm from Harlem, born, raised, all that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, and I love New York, but definitely like mad different places that you can go visit, you know what I'm saying? And not that I want to live there, but I definitely visit there a lot. And I think that's what I probably do. I would continue on like doing like being like a travel expert or travel someone that just bring people to a different place, you know what I mean? Just to enjoy and see that there's other things on the outside of the world. So yeah.
I think you might be able to consult with Marcellus, because these kids need places to go, and you trying to travel. I mean, it's seeming like really organic things to me. We would still be working together, it looks like. Juan, tell us a little bit about who you are beyond the work and what you would be doing if the revolution had come.
Yeah, I think, I'm on the same boat, learning about just fathering, right? Like the spectrum of it, the gaps in it, and also the hopes that I have for it. And just, I'm like a freaking community scholar. I'm always reading books, articles, YouTube. Woke up this morning, listening to 5 a.m, right? I'm like a homeboy and just adventurous bird watcher, right? And if the revolution, it wasn't applicable or whatnot, we still got to talk about the evolution. So I'd be out here living by the ocean and having a ranch right here by the ocean, building up and supporting our children so that they understand their connection to the land. They're in ceremony. They're also that we have different elders, different people coming through. We're interconnecting as fam, but we're also traveling and learning our original pilgrimage sites, right? That sometimes we have to reclaim or wake up, So that's what I would be doing, So kind of this, but just, my dream,
I absolutely love that. I really do. It's like, I feel like there's something about being, in real alignment with who you are, where you came from, what your purpose is, that, it's an essential piece And then there's also this sort of place where I feel like everybody were all sort of very concerned about the future and sort of just really sort of creating that sort of new future, that we want to live in. Me, myself, like many of you guys, I'm a parent too. I have two kids that are, I can't tell if I'm more unruly than them, but I say we learning from each other out here. I spend a lot of time sort of, growing with my babies. I like art, lots of art, sort of consuming art and creating art, music. And I think if the revolution had come, I'd want to have this big piece of land where I can grow lots of food and just grow things, make, a very, very beautiful space to receive community and family and people that I care about. So I'd have a beautiful space where I grew flowers and food, and I might throw, fabulous dinner parties. So, NaQuasia, I think that you could do some building for me, and Marcellus, you could bring kids, and AROCKS, we could plan some travel. Juan, listen, we come through and hang out by the ocean. So, I think that we're going to be doing this work now and in the foreseeable future. So thank you guys for indulging me in that question. And now let's get into the what you do. The what you do, sort of what brings you to the work, and the legacy that you're bringing here today. So I'll go in reverse order. Juan, let's start us off.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I want you to tell me a little bit about just the work you're doing, and sort of the legacy that you're bringing here, and kind of what brought you to the work. So I know that's a 3-part question, but I think however the spirit moves you to take that one.
Yeah, well, I can appreciate it. First off, as far as the legacy, just my tribal affiliation. I'm from the Pagame Waterberg clan out in Texas and Coahuila, right? And it's being Chicano and identifying as such. Our folks really started having an awakening around the same time that a lot of freaking black folk in the 60s started getting, woke in that sense. In this iteration where the culture started really waking up, especially in the 70s, if you were an indigenous person, you couldn't practice your culture. If you had ceremony, you go to jail. So our folks were fighting for just that type of just right to have faith, And even though we never lost it, it kind of went underground for a while. And so a lot of my legacy comes from individuals that were doing a lot of work in the hoods around barrio, because at that time the killings were so bad in our hoods that we were killing each other. And they were calling this homicide, but the reality, like they say, it was suicide. It's all that lateral violence, that internalized rage and oppression that we oftentimes bring up on each other. And so, not knowing, coming out of the 80s into the 90s, they stripped us up from everything. So in the 90s, we got a little bit more hip to skip, a little bit of more services, so a lot of work around male involvement programs. Where I'm from, teenage pregnancy rates were off the roof. I think in my little town, we were like per capita #1 in the state. And then moving on into 2000s, our folks got hit to the skip. We didn't just need programs and services. We moved on to policy and systems change, right? But we also understood that you had to center folks who are formerly incarcerated, because we're the ones that they throw away. You know what I'm saying? We're the ones who, have you ever faced that regime while in captivity? Not too many people have done that. And then also coming now and saying, holy shit, we need our other halves. You know what I'm saying? All the sisters or they that are out there that got trapped out here in these institutions, and then they got bamboozled and someone went to school and the universities. So what was the long-term impact of educational attainment on the psychology and spirituality of our people? So everyone talks about just being in jail hall. That's fucked up. A lot of our folks are going to school and being whitewashed. And they're coming back with some theories, some classism, some ego. You're like, where'd you learn that shit at? It's very divisive. It's no more accessible. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, but always knowing that our elders wanted us to not just be healing, right, but dreaming. And this is the difference between healing and wellness. Wellness, our daily practice, our nutrition, how we just kind of rock with the universe. Our healing is really around our ancestral healing, right? Stuff that might have happened in our families, and it has, like in mine, right? There's been abuse. There's been all those different ones. Like my family was not safe from that, right? So I'm a survivor, but also like I'm in solidarity. I'm a colleague and a comrade. I'm down, and also I mess up a lot. You know what I'm saying? I have my own little vices. I ain't perfect and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I need compassion. I'm one of those individuals. Call me in, but I want to be on point. So that's who I am. And some of the work that we do is, feel like we're trying to burn it down, but at the same time, we have to be careful because there's people inside, and until you have to realize that, because this alternative, this future has to be number one priority. Like, I want to build the future. I'm not just into changing the system and burning it down because we don't have nowhere to go. We're going to take them. I live in a 2-bedroom. Fucking can barely afford the shit. You know what I'm saying? Drive a Prius. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have land. I don't have those type of things, So I'll stop there.
So that's how we're going to do it today, huh? That's how we're doing it. Listen, in the words of my good friend, if you preach, I'll turn the pages. So let me hand it over to AROCKS.
Yes. What do I do? So who I am, I'm AROCKS. AROCKS stands for Angel Pastor Rock. I think I broke that down in the first webinar too. But my name is definitely indigenous. It came from playing basketball. Came from really just made up because most of us when we were young, black, brown, we just looking for identity, and at that time I was just going through mad different names and none of them was sticking. AROCKS stuck because it kind of really identified me in that essence. All my pros that I was balling with, I wasn't a good passer. You know what I mean? I could score. Just give me the rock. I could score. You know what I'm saying? And that was my name, A Pass the Rock. You know what I'm saying? Because definitely wasn't good at assists and all that, Now I'm much better with assists and I'm much better with roles. And yeah, that's me. Like me, I feel like I'm a connector, I'm a linker, and I always had that ability, from growing up in Harlem, just being able to literally be able to go to any project, any hood, and be good, really be good. You know what I'm saying? Whether we fought there or played ball there, it was something I'd be sharing with my young people now that all the time than not. I know me and my dude, we used to walk everywhere, going cross town, everywhere, the Bronx, all we just walking and stuff like that. And oftentimes, those in those times, we was learning. We was learning the train, we was learning the streets, we was learning certain codes, learning certain things you could do and not do. And I carried that on with me in my journey. I come from a background, a family that's from, I would say, drug addicts all the way up into scholars, you know what I'm saying? That's the range, There's so many dope people in our family and so many people that took falls just because of the system that we in, that this matrix that we all caught up in, the fast life, the school life, the criminal justice life on both spectrums and all that. I got a lot of cops in my family, and I got a lot of people that just made certain choices, that landed them inside prison, took them away from their families and stuff like that. And with all of that pot that's all mixed, I still just mad love, it's mad kids, mad energy, and I'm like the superstar, I don't know, my family just love me on both sides, just in a real way, my Gantt side and my Porter side, and I just give that love straight back, man. And it's work that how I connected and how I live it, my pops being inside prison from when I was 3 months in my mom's stomach, and then on my mom and my mom just holding it down, raising me and my sister, and then remarrying, and then having other children, my brothers and sisters, and just being a dope mother, where she never put none of her children fathers on child support, you know what I'm saying? Just struggled to make sure we had the Jordans on our feet. It was 7 of us rolling mad deep, and my mom just made sure that we was good, you know what I'm saying? And my family just being back of her, you know what I'm saying? Just making sure that we still was just a collective, you know what I'm saying? When I didn't have the father there to go play basketball, I had my uncles, you know what I'm saying, that constantly put me in tournaments because they kids was in the tournament. So uncles that took us away. So it's just a whole lot of spectrums that just run deep when it comes to my family. And I try to get on. And then I ended up leaving, going to prison. I had a son. He was 2 years old when I kind of followed right behind my pocket, even though like I myself I didn't want to do that. But then I like it, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff that I was doing in the street with my being a connector and linking and all that, being able to just to be who I was. Some of them same principles that I carried inside prison was able to make me I wouldn't have been able to get into, and also made me bring in. I was definitely affiliated, and still pretty much. I still like affiliated. I consider myself like I'm blood. You know what I'm saying? And I hold that under the name of H.O.L.L.A. I hold that under the name of all the works that I do, and I never shy away from that. And the reason being, because I remember me just a person joining a gang at that time. I called it a gang, but it really was a organization of just young, but joining that and didn't have no purpose and all that. But in that part of me joining, I was given so much different. I was told that they didn't give those books inside school. So I learned about the Black Panthers. I learned about U.P. Newton through the game. You know what I'm saying? I ain't learned about school. When I look at it and as an adult and I try to overlook at it, I'm like, yo, that's crazy, because if we didn't learn some of these things inside school, that our people was revolutionaries, our people was fighting for a certain cause at one point. But then when these drugs and these guns got put in our communities, the manipulation, you know what I mean, the turning things against, this is why we like in flux. This been going on. They've been doing this, you know. When I think about the Willingness letter, about white supremacy, and how it constantly seeks its head and constantly changes our and make us look at our people as wrong, as, you know, violent, you know what I'm saying? And then you take me back to just understanding what was my purpose. So I other young people that's going to follow up and be a part of this. And I just wanted to be an example that have to be out in the street banging, shooting, cutting, doing all that crazy stuff. Our own people as a gang or whatever, you know what I mean? You could be in the streets actually giving out knowledge, giving out love, giving out care, giving out community help to the people under this as well, you know what I'm saying? And you could also make that be contagious, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of my homies that I'm with, that I carry, that I'm pulling over, they understand that concept and all that. They not in the street, they got jobs, they do what they do, they take care of the family. All the narrative that you think, what is this as an organization, as a gang, is a complete different narrative. So I say why I say that under H.O.L.L.A, because inside the prison we was in, which when we started H.O.L.L.A back in 2007, it was definitely a lot of affiliation, Bloods, Crips, all types of affiliation. And it was young people like myself, young people like Corey, young people like Marlon, Bill, that was able to grab these young brothers and say, yo, listen, we meet up in here, because we needed to change the narrative of what we was going to do once we get out in society and all that. But it started while we was inside prison. And that was like the first kind of that we was kind of doing inside prison, where we just grabbing young people with our elders who passed that us and allowed us to be able to carry it, but we was able to grab them young people that they couldn't reach, because at some point they separated themselves from young people as well. That's the work that I do while I'm here today and what I'm bringing here today as my legacy. Yeah, I know I said a lot.
Thank you for that. So many rich sort of reminders and things that you pointed to in that introduction, AROCKS. We are so many things, you know, and we learn from so many places, and we heal and grow, you know, from in community. So thank you for lifting those things up, and for lifting up the folks who held you down, for lifting moms up, you know, for lifting all the communities that held you up. So yes, for that. Marcellus, let's bring you in.
Just listening to AROCKS' story, one thing that stuck out in this parallel to me, and what I've figured out is we took the Credible Messenger class, and I wasn't really sure about, you know, what role I played or whatever, but just as Corey said, connector. And that was the first time of me hearing and seeing it written out and played out like it is. So I am a connector. That's what I do, and I've learned just to connect and just see what develops out of it and push people towards the right direction. And, you know, we were talking previously, and I was speaking about fun peace. now, and how, individuals that have small organizations, individuals that have any organization, just the knowledge that's coming through there needs to be heard and shared. Because information, the type of information they're giving out so freely, doesn't happen too often. At least I've never been on those type of calls where they're just dropping grants and stuff like that. So now I parallel that to my life. I was adopted, and I was fortunate enough to be adopted because I was in the hospital laying with the little kids or whatever, and my adopted parents came and picked me out. We moved around a lot, so I know a lot of different places. I grew up in Philly and Chicago, so now I'm learning how to connect those dots in different places to move our people forward. The work I do right now is specifically all about that. I'm sitting in the basement right now of a reentry house where I got guys upstairs that just came home from prison, so I'm able to touch them as soon as they get out and try to give, if they want the right path, I know where to direct them. And give them that support. I know what it is to come home hungry. Sometimes you don't get your food stamps on time. So I spend a lot of time here just developing different individuals. I'm a part of different coalitions, Rain for Life. We go into the streets, as Corey said, and just give out hope. Sometimes we may give out meals. Sometimes we may give out condoms. Sometimes we just may come chop it up. And we to develop that relationship and that rapport, so when they do need some help, or when somebody gets in trouble, or somebody needs advice, they know who to call. To me, it's not really, it's about my organization, but it's more so about helping these individuals. One of my men got an organization called One Through You, where he just helps people one at a time. And you said something about paperwork. A lot of times, organizations, especially the bigger organizations, get trapped up in the paperwork. So they'll have people fill out so much paperwork that they forget that you have to sit down and develop a relationship. You have to also come through with what you say you're going to deliver. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not one phone call. You got to push that person towards success. And the biggest challenge that I'm going to always go back is this parenthood situation. But it's the biggest challenge, but it's the biggest joy. It's nothing like having your kids being there watching them play football and just, at 7 years old. It's nothing like when he's starting to learn how to talk and ask questions, or ask questions about the work I do, or what is a gang, or why did you ask that young man, is he still gangbanging, or whatever the case is. And he's sitting there listening, but he's absorbing and getting information. It's nothing like seeing him he has some bad ways and my bad ways, but it's nothing like yesterday we were at an event where the previous year he had won a bicycle, him and his brother. So they were giving out the same bicycles or whatever the case is. So he wasn't trying to be greedy. He said, no, let somebody else win it this year. I already got one. So that type of stuff to be around and feel, because I got older kids that I wasn't around them. And this is the joy that I missed while I was incarcerated. It's just the little things. So as AROCKS, everything always coincides. I coincide family. I try to invite them to events, but when I have to go, I bring my kids. So it's a mixture of different things. But specifically, the ancestral part of it is my adopted mothers. All those coaches, all the Ellie Ellises, the ones that used to, when I was young, trying to invite me and making me go to college, making me take leadership classes. I didn't know what it all meant. I went to college just to because get a shower every day and I could play sports in the morning. But being around those individuals made me realize that I have a duty to reach back and teach other people. Even when I was in my madness, if you asked me what I wanted to be when I was older, I would say a counselor, because that was always in my heart. I was always a leader. I was always able to be, every time I was captain of my sports team, whatever the case is. So, and I transformed that same energy into the streets for a brief moment. When they say Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustler, I'm always going to be a part of that, as AROCKS is always going to be a part of his thing. But now we move in a different cipher, a different realm. They get at me when they get ready to come home or something like that. Or they'll reach for me from Chicago. They say, oh, I got a guy coming home. Can you talk to him? You know what I'm saying? And I'm that person, or I try to direct them to a service or whatever the case it is. And through the organizations that have supported me, man, that's part. But those organizations are enrooted in the struggle. And what I'm talking about is the CJI. Once you learn the history of CJI, how long they've been around, and who is behind those organizations, they've been struggling and fighting for a long time. Families of Incarcerated People's Movement. They're trying to do great work and are doing great work, supporting us so that we can have a voice and give hope to other people. So those are the ancestral pieces that give us hope, along with everybody AROCK named in the libation. And the last thing, man, is that all of us, everybody that's out there in that audience and everybody that's on this panel, we are a light of hope for our people. The one thing I enjoy and always push about H.O.L.L.A is they have that young voice, and although they may be middle-aged, they look young, but they also have young people under them that they invite and that they're bringing up. And there's no organization to me like that that's promoting so much healing and already have a documented history of healing young people. Shout out to my Latinos, man, Juan, Alex Sanchez, George Galvanez. These are the type of people that helped guide us, seen our story, pulled us in, told us to connect to each other and build with each other. So I'm just fortunate, as AROCK said, fortunate to be alive during this time, but also fortunate to not have to answer to anyone and have that freedom to speak at any event, at any cipher, at any legislative hearing, at any person in the street, just what's on my mind and on my heart and what's right for the people. I don't have to be persuaded by, oh, I can't say this because I'm working for this entity, or I can't say that because I'm working for this entity. And that freedom right there gives me the ability to give out hope to other people in our community. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Marcellus. NaQuasia, I am going to kick it over to you. And one of the reasons that I'm really happy that you are involved in this conversation is that you're able to talk a little bit about what lies at the intersection, what lies at the intersections of race and gender and other identities. Because oftentimes gender is left out of conversations, and we don't actually think about the experiences of women and girls when we think about the need to abolish prisons and jails and to really take a close look at the criminal legal system. So tell us a little bit about who you are, the work you're doing, and the legacy that you're bringing to us today.
I'm a trailblazer. So the work that I do, like when I came home, this was not in my plans. Let me just make that clear. I'm the executive director of Pure Legacy. It wasn't in my plans. And I met this incredible group of women, and they planted the seed and it grew, right? So Pure Legacy is a nonprofit organization that mentor young girls. Pure Legacy got our first alternative to incarceration. For us to get recognized in that manner, it's hard, especially when you are a new ED, a new organization. During the global pandemic, the organization was able to mentor 50 young girls virtually. And we had just started. We just got funding from the New York Women Foundation. Let me give a shout out to them, and also the Pinkerton Foundation and all the other foundations that believe in our work, and also Brooklyn Community Foundation. This work is selfless work that I learned, and the organization name is Pure Legacy, right? So while I was in prison, I met beautiful women, right? All walks of life, different experiences, etc. I was the baby out of everybody. I got incarcerated at 19 years old, and they scooped me, right? They was like, you are in the penitentiary now, you're not in jail, and you need to do some work. and they invested in me. You know, they were my mentors. Those are the ones that I look back on and reflect on, that with the teachers that they gave me. My best friend my best friend taught me like the weight of the world, how to break that down from a 5% perspective, and it enlightened me as a woman. Right, I knew my sole purpose as a woman and what my essence and existence was in this world. And I came home and I hit the ground running. And I created this space because I noticed the disconnect between young girls and society. When you invest in a young girl, you invest in the whole village, right? When you invest in a young man, you invest in that young man, right? Because our womb is our world, right? That's our nation, and that's where our essence come from. So, with that being said, it was just a must need, and I guess God felt that I was the one that's supposed to be doing this work. So right now, Pure Legacy, like I said, mentor young girls between the ages of 16 to 21. We have a dope resource hub where we connect young girls from all 5 boroughs, because we mentor girls from all 5 boroughs with resources, and we form partnerships in order for them to succeed. It's unfortunate, so I created an intern leadership program for this summer, and we're gonna launch it. It's also a trial and error to see what works. So I noticed that these young women, 15 dope young girls, right? They super dope, and they don't know how to send a proper email. In this world that we live in, the technology, but their white counterpart know how to write an email, and they don't. So that's a disadvantage for them to be successful in the workforce, to be their own bosses, and to be their own entrepreneurs. And that's what this organization promotes: self-empowerment, positive self-image, a self using historical history in our curriculums is rich in that. Restorative justice circles, healing, like that. Those are the must things that a girl needs in order to succeed, for her to reach her full actualization as a woman. And we have to invest in our young people, period. Not just our girls, but especially our girls. Like I said, a woman is your first teacher, right? On this whole call, like our first teacher was a woman, which is our mother or our caregiver. And you have to invest in our young people. And when you don't, things go to the left. Look at me. I served 15 years of incarceration. I was pregnant. My daughter be 18 next week. I had to raise her from a jail cell, or going on trailers, and through my trial and tribulations of fighting and getting adjusted to a system that I was not used to, learning who I was as a woman, who I wanted to be. And that took time, it took healing, it took acknowledgement, it took self-awareness as well. And that's what I'll leave behind. That's a part of my legacy, is to invest in these young people, girls that come through this door.
Thank you for that. I'm so grateful for all the experiences that have led everybody to right now, where we are right now, to doing all the work that we do right now. And I'm grateful for all the people that have held you all such that you could, sort of grow and do the work that we need you to be doing today. So in your stories, I just wanted to make sure I lift up, that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every experience that you have that made you the leader that you are. And I'm grateful for all of you who poured into you such that you could be here today. NaQuasia, I'm going to start with you for my next question. I sort of just following up on some of the work that you talked about, that you do at Pure Legacy. I wonder why you felt the need to start an organization. Why not just help work with some of the other organizations that are already doing work? what sort of unique things that you feel like you needed to sort of bring into the conversation, and then why?
If anyone knows Topeka K. Sam for being in your life, you would understand why. I came home on a Thursday. I sat in Hope House on a Tuesday, and she hired me on the spot. She invested in me, my leadership, my obstacles, especially coming back, re-entering society, navigating, etc. So I seen the work she was doing, right? I married her for like 9 months, and I was like, I could do that. I got a story to tell. And I'm like, and I could reach a lot of people, right? And I'm like, but I want to reach a lot of girls. And what would that mean? I would be a part of their lives for the rest of their lives. They will always remember me. They will always help me when I get older and need to be in a wheelchair, not wheel me down the hill. So that's why I do this work. That's why, being a nonprofit organization, especially Grassroots, we don't get the acknowledgement that we deserve. We don't get the acknowledgement of the work that we're trying to do to make these social changes. It's hard, and a lot of foundations, etc., acknowledge you, but where does the line come between, how can you implement something without nothing, right? You still have to pay a staff. I work solely for Pure Legacy. I have to pay myself, etc. We still have to live. These young girls, I pay them $15 an hour, right? So they know the significance of their worth, their workforce worth, and them learning and growing. And that's the reason why I got into this work. That's the reason why I love this work. This work helped me find my purpose in life, and helped me find my purpose as a woman, and as a mother, and all the other labels that society gave me, and also as a formerly incarcerated woman. I've seen former correction officers that when I was incarcerated, and they was like, yo, I see the work that you doing. Like, they send me girls, so that's an honor. Like, people trust you enough with their kids, right? When the world is so cruel today, but people have a little mustard seed of faith in order to make you feel that way. But I felt there was a need to start this organization because there's not a lot of girl programs. There's not a lot of programs that empower young girls in their experiences and give them a different perspective on how to approach life. We are life changers. We are game changers. I just wanted to be able to help as many girls as I can. I feel like I'm a motivational speaker. I speak a lot. I speak about my truth, my experiences, and how I have grown. And somewhere in the room, one is a girl dreaming of being front and center. There's a girl dreaming of becoming your executive director. There's a girl dreaming to become just to be. And that makes all the difference in the world, and that's why I do the work that I do, and that's why Pure Legacy is here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Juan, I'm going to bring you in and ask you that same question. Why did you feel like you needed to start an org? Why not just work with some of the other folks that are already doing work?
It was a transition that needed to be done. A lot of our elders were getting up there in age, and they were working off a pedigree, a legacy, and a process that needed to be expanded, and it needed room for new vitality and growth. I also saw that I was able to go to work at a foundation, right? I was still over here working for bottles and needles, freaking cut off shorts, hats to the back, smoking fucking yes, God stuff, and surfing. I had no idea what a foundation was, right? And so then I went up there like, holy stuff. And in my transition and throughout my transitions, I've been able to be mentored by elders in the game, right? And doing work in nonprofits. And I also got to see that the big gap between how foundation folk work, but also the ones that are closely aligned and tied and networked with them, right? And how a lot of it goes down at the bar. A lot of it goes down at the conferences, right? So if you ain't in that in crowd, it's hard, right? The other ones all seem like I couldn't even get hired in fucking most places, right? Like they wouldn't even, most nonprofits, and I got out in 2004, 2000, they would not hire me. Freaking, and also saw if I did get hired, I'll be honest, I was struggling here. There was no money. Like I saw everyone else get money, right? All the interns that coming from college, right? Freaking, all the white girls are coming from college and shit, right? You know what I mean? Because we get an intern and shit, and none of the money was coming to us, right? I was like, well, hell no, look, I'm cool. Because everybody wants to talk about change and advancement, no one wants to talk about money. See, when senators and shit, the government talks about change, they're talking about always money, talking about millions and trillions, shit, right? So one of the things was that our sustainability and growth out of respect as an individual, and for my community as folks who are formerly incarcerated, I said, oh, hell no. Not only do we need to operate different, we also need to compensate our folks in a legit way and also think about their health and well-being, right? And we can't just say, oh, you know better, you're from the community, you're formerly incarcerated, you're a fucking expert. I'm like, no, I need support too, right? Because what happens when I fall, right? And then everybody turns their back on you and saying, see, who told you? We have a lot of stuff. So a place that was also really, it had to be focused, like the sister said earlier. It has to be focused on a specific people, community, and population. It's just important. We're not at that place where we can just do everything. And a lot of these nonprofits, I thought, we're trying to do everything. Like, no, I'm going to start small and intimate. And it'll take time and it might be slower. But I'll tell you, this relationship right here is so important that we have time to pay attention, to have reflection, to have fun, be healthy, and just take our time. Right, like we'll get there, but I just found that everything became about like at that time we were so entrenched into like thinking we needed to change the system and systems collaboration, and it's like no. That was actually they had us entrapped. So we're talking about liberation, we're talking about the community, we're talking about the future. Like, what does it look like if we had a storefront? Like, where are our storefronts? Where are our banks? Where are freaking dealerships? You know what I'm saying? Like, we had to start thinking different and knowing that the nonprofit is one tactic, but it's not the movement. It's not exactly what we want to get to, right? So I think it was more important of how do you expand the thinking of what's possible? And that's why, like, yeah, nobody wants to start an org, I'll be honest. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, but you know what? You might have access, a network, or people are looking at you. And if you don't move, a lot of us start working with youth, and at some point you got to move out the way and let the other young people take over so that you can move on to your next place where you need to be of service. I'll stop there.
Yes. That's right. Pass the baton. Yes.
Yeah, that's super real. That's super real. I always say that, folks that are doing work, on behalf of communities of color, folks of color that are working in communities, we do this work as a matter of life and death. Like, it's not doing this because, I didn't have anything to do after college. It's literally because it's a matter of life and death for the community, that we live in and that we love in. So absolutely, thank you for bringing that in. AROCKS, what about you? Why did you feel the need to start an org?
Yeah, I was in prison when we started H.O.L.L.A. So we started H.O.L.L.A. inside prison in 2007. And we started it on some, like, just meeting up in the blue room and everything, I was, like, one of the last ones, and Corey came right after me. So Corey was the last one. I was, like, the one right before Corey. But just brothers was just starting to meet up And it's just like a sneaky meetup because they filling out a paperwork to say they going to the Blue Rooms to do one thing, but we was in there really organized, you know. So a lot of things is like full circle. But yeah, like I said, my time inside prison, at this point, I was in the yard. I was a basketball player. I was working out, making sure my muscles was good. I was getting prepared to look good to come home and all that. But mentally, I wanted to be prepared as well. So I was just in a lot of these school of thoughts inside that was started or that was ran by the brothers inside the prison, and I was just learning from them. And then as I'm starting to learn, I was just like adding in my energy and my understanding of things, and people were just looking at me. And then next thing you know, I got that H.O.L.L.A from Butter Lab and Shaq, and he was like, "Yo, bro, I think you need to come meet with us in this blue room. Like, we be talking about some real shit, and we talking about like creating something while we inside prison and all that." So I'm like, "I bet, I'm down with that." I was working, me and Marlon, we was actually working in transitional service together, along with a few other dope brothers, L's son, Charles L, a few other brothers, yeah. And we was already pretty much teaching the jail anyway, because anybody that came inside the prison, we were teaching them through phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I don't want to go into that long story, but pretty much I was a facilitator counselor even inside prison, right? So I'm just watching myself kind of like keep on being in these positions, like I said, and connecting and linking and stuff like that. And what ended up happening was, while we were using these blue room, me and Corey started our bid off together. So when he came inside the prison in 2007, and I maybe was in the blue room like maybe 3 weeks now, or maybe it was early. So I was like maybe 3 weeks. We didn't even have a name for H.O.L.L.A yet. I told him about it. I'm like, yo. And from me and his conversation, I realized even though we was in Rikers Island in 2002 together, by the time we was in 2007, when we linked back up, we still was on the same type of time. We still was like, had the same type of mindset. You know, we had our children that we definitely wanted to get out in society. We had our family that we definitely wanted to get out in society. We had our family asking us questions while we were just inside prison and looking at it for us for leadership. So in my mind, before I went to prison, I never really saw any organizations that really just cared for young people and for the youth like that, and just really like doing work as a big organization. So that was one part. The other part was when I was inside prison, I didn't, even the organization that was coming inside, it was just like a lot of white people that was coming in talking to us, doing the AVP with us. And these are the things that I actually learned from, but it was really the brothers that was facilitating, you know what I'm saying? It was still the brother that was facilitating these things. But yet these white people was coming in as helpers, you know what I mean? A lot of them had the Quaker background, and they were dope, you know what I'm saying? And for us, that was just like official. And me, I was just thinking like, damn, what if our black people was coming in doing this, just coming in caring about people inside prison? Because all the time we'll be seeing inside the prison, you be seeing the officers, you seeing these counselors, and you don't think none of these people care about you, you know what I'm saying? And then the only people that you are really leveled with is your family members when they come up to visit you. Other than that, it's like you're inside prison, and it's like people that feel like they're over you or they're better than you, and that you're the mistake and you're the one that should continue to be feeling criminalized and all that. But these organizations that was coming inside, I never really felt that from them. It was just a lot of love from them, but I didn't really see a lot of our people, you know what I'm saying? So that was some of the ideas. So when we built a H.O.L.L.A, all of us, it was like 7 of us, we all had different ways of how we wanted to approach H.O.L.L.A. We was all from different boroughs and stuff like that. So we all had like different things we wanted to do once we get out of prison. But H.O.L.L.A was a program when we first started a program. We wanted to do a letter writing program, mentorship program from prison to our brothers and young brothers and sisters outside of prison. And we was doing that already through family members. We were doing that already through things. So why I think we want to start our own organization is because of those factors. I just didn't see it. When I came home from prison, it's once again, it's not seeing us in those leadership, not seeing us at the table at the time. You know what I'm saying? I see it more now, which is a beautiful thing when you think about entrepreneurship and all that, and running your own business. I see it more now, but I didn't see that even when I first came home. I still saw these main organizations that constantly was getting all of the money and everything. The other part is I remember saying this as a reason when we came up with H.O.L.L.A and that acronym. I remember saying this is a key thing that I never wanted to come home from prison and be fighting with our brothers and sisters over money to do this work. So that was like my key thing to keep on saying. I don't want to be fighting with other organizations. I want to be the link, if anything. Be the link to organize. If we can't do it, listen, we know somebody over here that can do it, and that's what we're doing now. When we building a lot of organizations, we are the link to put things together. We just did a big celebration dinner where we had a lot of these mad different organizations, like over 20 different organizations, come out and just come get a drink with us, come get some food with us, come eat with us, but also come meet some people that's in your community that you don't even know, like that's doing some real dope work. We have our grassroots pedagogy that we're doing right now, our grassroots circle, where we're reaching out to mad different grassroots organizations that start from the bottom, that's going through the same issue. But listen, philanthropy, we're talking about philanthropy, and I know that's another question we'll get to, but we're talking about, like, listen, if the money goes, are you still going to do this work? You know what I'm saying? Are you still going to step up to the plate? And what's it? Because before we had money, we was doing this work. For the years that we came home from prison with H.O.L.L.A, we've been doing this with no money. We started our first program with no money. You know what I'm saying? With some dope, able black. Definitely looked out with Pinkerton as one of our first funders and everything. But we just had this dream that we wanted to just talk to young people, wanted to build young people, and we wanted to put them in leadership. Forget all that other BS. And that's what made us, like, for me, why we coined and why we continue to want to actually build the organization, because that's the other part. When we was inside prison, we was the young people. We had to get the trust from our elders, and it was hard. They was kind of struggling. They didn't want to let that torch go and all that, because they didn't know we was going to drop the ball or not. You know what I'm saying? But by us gaining their respect, by them respecting us to the point saying, you got that torch, what you going to do with it? We took that joint and run it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people that definitely coming out of Oldersville, a lot of people that's on these lines that's going to see, like, yo, that's A-Rock, that's Corey, that's Marlon, those dog bros, they were doing that since they was young. These are our elders that's going to continue to say that. It's never going to be no different of a language, right? Because we was doing that from the ground. And once again, we still don't see that now when young people is definitely in leadership. And like Marcellus said, we look young, and I'm still young, you know what I'm saying, when I think about people that's older than me and all that, you know what I'm saying? But we got our young dope people that's doing mad dope stuff and all that. They actually doing the tech stuff right now. They actually help make all of this right here. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we talked about when we talked about building youth leadership, putting youth in the front. When I'm in the front of me or when I'm around any type of gathering, my young people, they hate when I do it, but as soon as somebody say, what is H.O.L.L.A? I'm like, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? I pass it off. Like, go ahead. Because eventually you're going to be running this. You know what I'm saying? And the young people come behind me. But that's, for me, is real, because that's how you do youth leadership. You know what I'm saying? You do youth leadership by having your youth speak for you. And it's not me doing a puppet shit because they get paid. They get, you know what I'm saying? They get the accolade, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's really because this is what they want to do. They got them out of the community. They told us their community fucked up. Certain shit in their community need to change. So we gave them that rope to say, all right, let's go change that shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's go change some of these dynamics. And as they start to learn this nonprofit sector, that's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? We all have our thing, but the reason why we started the organization, because we definitely were still young when we came on. We was in 20s, 30 years old, came on prison, and we just said, like, yo, nobody not going to do it like how we going to do it. You know what I'm saying? And we want people to do it like how we doing it, but nobody not going to do it. So since they not going to pass that, we going to take it and we just going to keep moving forward with it. And with a blessing, like I said, because it's from the heart, even if we didn't have the title of the incorporation and all that nonprofit stuff, we was doing this. I've been doing this. I'm still doing it. You know what I'm saying? And this is what makes me a credible messenger as well. You know what I'm saying? When I'm doing all this work, I'm like, oh, doing all this work everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's just, this is what we do. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right,
Come through, AROCKS. NaQuasia, I seen you came off mute. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, we always want to invest in the leadership of young people and pass the torch. I know there's also Yolanda Johnson Peterkin is an elder and is doing this work. She's super dope. She's my chair. And, we always have these conversations on, you need to pass the torch, right? Stop, like, for her to be an elder and saying that, not to say that she's old, but she's been doing this work. Her and her husband been doing amazing work for over 20 years, since they came home from incarceration. And she was like, just pass the torch, right? So I'm like, I get it, because I want somebody to pass me the torch. And so she was like, but what are you willing to invest and to make this young person great? And, you know, and that's what I do. Like, I invest in these leaderships of each and every girl. Like, like I said, I got 15 dope girls, and they all boss babies. Right? That's what I call them. Because they are so, their leadership is so rich, it's so authentic, it's no BS, it's none of that. And that's just who they are. It's just that I'm just giving them the organization and my staff, my team, we're giving them the tools in order to succeed, to be that sharp, go in any room, be able to go on the corner and chop it up with your friends and still leave an impression. You know, like we are creating an alternative to suspension for junior high school kids, so the girls can mentor them. Like I always teach you, got to pay it forward. When I reached out my hand and pulls you in, I want you to pull somebody else in. And that's what we have to install in our young people, especially when it comes to their leadership and professional development. So that's all I have to say.
Word. Thank you for that. You should see my page of notes over here, y'all. I'm really getting so many rich gems. Marcellus, can I bring you in on that same question? Why did you feel the need to start an organization?
Well, I'm in Nassau County, and the other name for Nassau County is Nazi County. And they just did a move right now where they're trying to make protesters liable. Probably one of the only counties in the United States. What they mean is that the police can sue individuals. Now, it's really not for us per se, because they're going to be going after the rich people to protest, but we know they're going to utilize this in a whole nother fashion. We're also the only county not allowed, the police don't have to wear the body cams. I think if I was in if I was in the city or if I was somewhere else, I might have been started my own organization. Or I might not even start an organization. There's so many good organizations that I feel that's inside the city. I might have just been working for an organization because I will believe in somebody like a Man Up, Brownsville Think Tank, H.O.L.L.A. They had the bread to pay me. You know what I'm saying? Different people that I know that have the heart for this type of work. I'll probably be stuck working with somewhere. Fast forward, being in Nassau and seeing the roadblocks that they set up. I had some great teachers and mentors, but at the same time, I had some people just using me, as Juan said, just for my voice, or just so they could have that voice in there, and then they got all these other people that's getting the top bread. So now I know where the bread is coming from. Now I'm able to speak to the bread. I'm able to tell them that, you know, if you don't get it, I don't want the money. Don't Reign for Life shouldn't get the money, right? Because I'm not from my area. I wasn't born and raised here. I'm a credible messenger, but a credible messenger to be a part of stopping the violence has to be from that particular town, because it's so interwoven that you need to know the grandmothers, the aunts, the uncles to call in situations. Whereas if you're not from that town, you don't have those rooted connections where you can reach out to those individuals to stop some of that violence, if that's what your organization is supposed to do. So I was working, getting used or whatever, and then it got to the point where I was bumping heads with my bosses. And you know how we come up in the P9 system, so you got to be on point. You know what I'm saying? You hear certain things, you know, the antennas get raised. All right, they're about to fade me out this whole situation. You know what I'm saying? So I was forced to start my own organization. I was blessed to meet different individuals based on me upholding my word and different stuff like that, introducing me to CJI and those conferences, and I was able to go to the bar. I know I like to drink sometime. So I was able to sit in those different ciphers and develop the relationships with some of the people that could fund you just to get started. Now, I'm that connector. So I started my own organization, and what I try to do is connect my little organizations out here, but also if we have to, we move up to somebody that's working with, that we know that's working with Blacks and Latinos in our community, and I try to partner with them or partner with somebody else doing doing some of the work that I may not be doing. And I try not to cause conflict, but I try to bring it in the spirit of community, in the spirit of, as Juan said, do we want a better future? It's a lot of money coming down right now, so you got a lot of organizations trying to get their cut and their piece or whatever the case is, and they're not really thinking about, okay, how can we utilize this money as a whole to move the next generation forward? Because I know my generation, we fucked up. You know what I'm saying? We partied and bullshitted too long and got too old, and now we're not really relevant. We're relevant to spearhead leadership training, but we're not relevant to the streets as cool as we think we are. Our young people are 10 times smoother and 10 times cooler, and they know the language just like we know the language. So, you know what I'm saying? We got to figure out how to bring that young spirit in there and get it to move forward. Do I like the ups and downs of having my own organization? Hell no. You know what I'm saying? But I love the freedom that it gives me. So I'd rather keep that freedom than sign on the dotted line where I got to be a puppet. You know what I'm saying? Not saying everybody's a puppet that works for different organizations. You know what I'm saying? But you're curtailed to speak that company's language. And that company's language may not be what's for the community right now. But that check is so good to y'all don't want to give up a piece of that check, or you'll wear 4 or 5 hats. You know what I'm saying? Where you're getting 4 or 5 different checks where you could have spread that out to a formerly incarcerated individual. I support any organization that hires ex-offenders and puts them in a position and not just a flunky to come speak here and there. But if you're giving them a real salary, some real benefits to try to get their lives moving forward, I'll support that 100%. But I'm not supporting that you get $3 million and $2 million of that shit goes to the administration and but you're going to pay the outreach worker and the violence interrupter some bullshit. And, you know what I'm saying? And they're the ones that's really doing the work, the ones that's really getting out.
You like very in the best way, sort of just we're a little tight on time, so to our final question after this, because I feel like so much of what we need to talk about really sort of thoughtful answers from everybody on our final question. Juan, I'm going to bring you in on this question, sort of related to what Marcellus brought up, especially around sort of us, like, and what everybody brought up around sort of the need to pass the baton, sort of the need, the fact that folks, for
actual plan, they might bring us to a convenience. But damn, they're working in the cuts with like. I think the other one is it can be positioned to support us because it wants us to use us for labor, almost extorting us and not supporting our health and vitality. So there's two. What I've seen in this work is like we're also being divided. You'll have groups like this who I feel like really like grassroots, coming from the hood, coming back from the penitentiary, you know what I'm saying? All this. So other group who's all talking about the environment, self-care, all this, right? And they give them all kinds of stuff. But a lot of our folks are forgetting the grit. You have to have a balance of all that. So I think that we need to put a heart in the paint and also taking care of ourselves. And these other folks are like socio-ecological folks need to come over here, right? They need to be advocating. They need to be coming out to, I want to take care of the environment, be all good to grandma and Mother Nature, and we have racism, white supremacy, anti-blackness happening. This shit ain't gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? So I just think there's a big divide on what's happening, and yeah, I think we're ushering also a new vision for what this work looks like. We don't know it yet, but there's an old vibration, right? Like folks like yourself and other folks have been in places, right? But like what happens is folks that kind of get close to the top, they find a way to corporatize them And also, I've seen too many times. It's like they took them out of you take them out of the hood and shit, you put them up there and they forget. Well, a lot of our folks are coming up to the ranks and they're forgetting. You're like, holy shit, that's how. Anyhow.
Thank you for that. It's interesting because, I occupy a bunch of different spaces. I'm currently situated in the community. It's interesting for me at this point, sort of being in a position to direct philanthropic dollars when I started out being at work that sort of, that organizations did. And hold up and plant those seeds and watch them grow, and that was the recipient, and like all of us who know that semester, so it's interesting sort of being here and now having this conversation. Places, but I think from this position really know I'm in the place where I understand that communities of color, they when we come in, we're subject to really. And then when we do get grants, they're usually the smaller grants. They're often not multi-year grants. You're often having to go back and apply for funding again and again, and you're having to sort of compete against folks, that you respect and admire their work too in ways that you should not have to, because there is enough money and resources out there for the communities to do the work, to be funded well. But the perception is that there isn't, so I think that it's super important that we have this conversation sort of, especially as what we work to do is not just sort of tear down. We also have to do that imaginative work of thinking about what's happening next. So yeah, we tear it down, replacing it with, right? It's not, and so what do we need actually to be, do we want to have with philanthropy, especially as many more of us jump into sort of positions of leadership and are responsible for holding us. So,
I just wanted to say, I think with information and knowledge and application of that information, like that, it's a lot of funding, it's a lot of money coming down. The American Rescue Plan money is supposed to be divided out to help grassroots organizations, middle organizations, and big organizations. It has to be a way.
This meeting is being recorded. Does not get the recognition that we need. They'd rather give it to no disrespect to the work that they have been doing for decades. The Ford Foundation, not the Ford Foundation, the Fortune is to the side. Exodus. Like, you give it to all these big organizations, not to say they're not doing the work, but they're also a sector of people that are doing, organizations that's doing the work, and it's more on the ground. And we're not getting funded the way we should. Like, why we gotta, like, it's like, I feel at times I feel like I'm in a crab in a barrel with the who got the best mission, and it shouldn't be that way. Like, why you just can't fund us because we are doing the work. It's not like we don't have the data. It's not like we don't have the numbers in which you want in order to really fund us. But fund us. Why we gotta fight for $25,000? That's just for stipends alone. That's just for stipends. What about everybody on my staff is somewhere directly impacted some form of way. I got my hub manager. She did 22 years of incarceration. She ain't been home 120 days. We need to start looking at that. And she loves this work because she wanted to invest, because she's been incarcerated since she was 17 years old. She don't want the next little black or brown girl to go in the system. Why do we have to fight for us to be, like, for us to do the work and we still have to live? I did 15 years of incarceration. I'm still on parole. There should be no reason why I still gotta live too. We are in New York, especially when you are a woman organization. They fund more men than they do women organizations. I'm not saying sorry because I'm a boss. I'm not gonna say sorry because I'm a leader. I'm not. I'm unapologetic about the work that I do. This is selfless work. I sacrifice in order for my organization to be successful. Everybody want to put in that work, but everybody want to be successful. It's not fair. It's not fair that why maybe 3 organizations got to share a space just to have a space to do the work. Why? That shouldn't even be in the category. Like, why you just can't give us a set money for a year, 2 years, so we can start doing the work and we won't have to worry about, Dad, can I bring on somebody? Can I give this young person a stipend? I'm paying for 2 young women that are homeless to live in another organization house because I don't have enough funding for us to have a house. They don't get funded for direct services. Why? It's needed. You got girls out here sex trafficking, living on people's couches, trying to survive. My alternative to incarceration, she committed 23 crimes while she was on the run. That was survival. She got tired of sleeping in the cold on the bench or sleeping in the cold on the train station. Why the foundations are not funding the grassroots organizations that are doing the work? And why should we exploit ourselves in order to get funding?
Sure, NaQuasia, I think you have just lifted up, like, if, I had a pulpit and was like out there ministering to folks who have to do this money, I'm going to be like, turn to the first book of NaQuasia, where we are going to lead you through all the reasons for why you need to be giving multi-year grants, why you need to be reducing the barriers to funding, why we need to stop acting like the real issues that we don't trust people of color. And I can't tell you how many times that I've had to be in situations where I'm like, so why? And I'm, have to be the one who's continuously like, and not in my organization, the foundation students when I was like, but no, that's the thing. And it's an interesting thing, Juan, I think, and Marcellus used to sort of brought up what it means for folks to sort of have professionalized nonprofit positions that maybe used to be done by folks who were volunteers or folks who just care about the community. It means something to be connected to your church. It means something, for folks to like want to actually, support themselves. And you shouldn't have to actually choose between integrity and being resourced. And I mean that individually, and I also mean that as folks who are who are doing organizations, you shouldn't have to choose sort of between paying your bills and actually sort of doing the work. And one thing I know is that for organizations that work with communities of color, again, we are first responders, and you can't even do your programmatic work with folks until you're meeting the sort of immediate needs that community members face. So if sis shows up to your organization and she has eaten, you're going to see her. If mom, got in a fight with dad and he got kicked out, you're trying to find him a place to live. And all these things are representing for organizations daily before they do the work of their mission, because they're situated in communities that are underrepresented. And so when we privilege strategies that are just single strategies, that are just single missions, we exclude folks who don't have the luxury of doing the work like that. And so, one of the things I advocate for is really understanding, one, that organizations of color don't have the luxury to work on one thing. We don't have the luxury of working with single populations, and we have to meet multiple needs even before we actually get to the mission of the work. So we have to start funding organizations, not just the work that they do, but the way that they actually do the work. We need to make sure that they're resourced enough to be sustainable and to take care of themselves, and such that they don't have to be continually proving their trust. And I think that is especially so for people who are formerly incarcerated. It's like once you add even that layer of identity onto people of color, women of color, the fact that folks are formerly incarcerated automatically almost erodes people's trust. And so we have to actually start doing something about that. Juan, I see you came off of mute. I want to bring you in.
I think we can talk about all these isms, but there's like literally like explicit bias against individuals among university. Like it's almost like there is, and in particular, like if you don't have a degree, right? It's like, man, they look at you like, look what you're talking about. Like, man, yeah, I didn't want to pay the government 100 racks. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be giving fucking the money that, right? Like, so who are your mentors? Well, shit, I'm keeping out Dr. Francis Cresswell, freaking Adrian Marie Brown, Sister Sherazade. You know what I'm saying? Zapatista, you know what I'm saying? Different things. That's what I'm reading because they put it out there. Most of them put it out there for us. So, it's like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and we have to be careful because it's like, we gotta also be on point. We gotta be disciplined and principled in our work. And so, exactly what you're saying is like, we can't do everything. Sometimes I gotta say no. That's what I've been learning. I gotta say no because I'm trying to say yes to shit that's meaningful and purposeful. Because I can't get into every fire. It sucks to have to say no sometimes. Like, that's just not what we can do. However, we still need to have like a community fund out there, like thinking, like a rescue fund. Like, look, we need to be able to get to the fucking resource bank, not the food bank only, but a resource bank so that we can pull because we can make a case that this mother, right, might be in a situation where dad's not at his best right now and is freaking being violent. I've had those situations. What are you doing? They fucking knock on your door asking like, hey, I need some help, but we can't call the police. And so you go, oh, shit, here I'm gonna need people. Shit, all of a sudden, I gotta go figure this shit out. I don't have resources for that, but I'm calling everybody. So it'd be nice to have that type of like backup fund. Like fund us in all the grant stuff that you do, but there has to be a little bit of fund for legal support, just crisis support, and just wellness support. Baked in and looking at that as part of the indirect or fringe benefits. I don't know how the fucking that shit works, right? But that type of level of detailed analysis that because the other part of it is also our work is coming under attack, okay? Like we have point out pro situations here, we have police who don't like us, we have a government who's like super woke has insomnia, and there's a lot of different things that we have to start thinking about what's the protection plan for our groups, right? What is the protection plan when this brother, sister, or they get in a situation where they're on freaking, on blast in the media, right? Or they come out and the police are all, look, see the organization, they're all the same. Anyhow, I'll say that much.
I think you're spot on. Hey, Ross, I want to give you a chance to weigh in. And after that, we're going to open up to Q&A.
This is dope. Thank you, everybody that went already. I said a lot that I was going to possibly say. I'm grateful just to be in this space. Just know that we're not alone. You know what I'm saying? There's a million of us out there that's going through these same issues, have these same issues when it comes to funders, philanthropy, just expect it or not, nonprofit. As we know in our society, it's like business, nonprofit world, for-profit world. Most of us, definitely in the grassroots, we are hearing people selflessly. We're not thinking about ourselves. We think
about our community, we think about the land, we think about our people, we think about our youth, boys, girls, trans, whatever. And the realness with this is just so. This is something key that we just want, like we've been on it, you know what I'm saying? But just more and more, we just understand it, you know what I mean? Trying or just like trying to beg for that money from these people is putting us just in a effed up state, I want to say. You know what I'm saying? It's putting us in an effed up state. And it's our money, really. You know what I'm saying? Like it's our money that's been stolen from our people. It's our money that's been on our people's back. A lot of these organizations in philanthropy is they done got this money from slavery, got this money from just mad white supremacy, mad violence that was done to black people, done to Africa, done in America, done to our people all over, done to our indigenous people. Just so much crazy. And they know that too. You know what I'm saying? When you go and dig into shit, you can find shit. You like, damn, y'all own this plantation. This black, you know what I'm saying? Or this is, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just real, right? And if you call them out on it, it's like, damn, why you bringing up that? Yeah, we definitely not giving you no money. You know what I'm saying? We're going to continue to give it to our parent companies or our cousins and shit that own it under this guise and all that, and they own shit. And I'm just saying all that to say, like, we definitely tell them philanthropy, like, you can't come into an organization, hear something for like one day or a couple of hours, well, not even an hour, but a half an hour, write your little notes, and then say the nigga decision on why you should or shouldn't give this person some money and all that. Definitely coming to this grassroots work. Because in reality, we definitely gotta, we communicate with our, we trying to decide whether we want to fuck with you or not. You know what I'm saying? It's not even about whether you want to fuck with us. We trying to decide whether we want to have our name attached. So you giving us money. We need to see where your money is coming from. Is it a cause of like part of the state? Is it some shit that that's been got our people on our back? You know what I'm saying? Is it something that's funding the jail and constantly putting people in the jail? Where's your money coming from? You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, we want you to understand like this shit is a process. This shit is a journey. You know what I'm saying? And if you say you're on a journey with us, then that needs to be real. That can't be no fake stuff going on. This one day you coming in, a couple of minutes, taking little notes or not. Understand you need to meet a man, you need to meet an Alex, Kevon, Stack. You know what I'm saying? Russian, Longforms. You need to meet these people. These are the young. You need to meet Corey, AROCKS, H.O.L.L.A. You need to meet the Grassroots. You need to meet everybody that's at the table. You need to listen to them too. You know what I'm saying? Because these are the future. These are the people that's going to run this and run other things and all that. You need to meet the young people in our community. A lot of these people, and I've been inside organizations where you've been director or you like some big program manager and all that, but yet you don't know the fucking young people. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they want, what they need. You never even sat down and had a circle with them. You know what I'm saying? You told them you loved them. You gave them a hug. And you gave them a stipend and all that. You know what I'm saying? And all of these is real. We all got a part to play. We all got a part to do. But in reality, definitely when it comes to philanthropy, definitely what's the us as these grassroots, we got to understand that we got to vote on. We got to say, what's they call it? Transform it. We gotta connect our shit together, you know what I'm saying? And just in real deep ways and see where we can work at, you know what I'm saying? There's some of these big organizations, and I'm definitely not gonna call some of my brothers and sisters is definitely connected in part, so I'm not gonna call out their name, but some of them just being foul, you know what I'm saying? Y'all get money for shit, y'all know y'all don't do, you know what I'm saying? So of course, you wanna outsource, you wanna try to get somebody to come and do that, and then you wanna give people crumbs, you know what I'm saying? You wanna give grown-ass people silence, you know what I'm saying? Can't even, you know what I'm saying? And we telling our young people actually want to be running this shit, and our young people actually when they came up and designed this shit, and you still not trying to appreciate them and say, man, you paid. And I get it, you know what I mean? You gotta use that money to do whatever you need to do with it. But come on, man, most of this shit is bullshit. Y'all just eating and taking, and you know you're a part of that shit, you know what I'm saying? So it's really on you, like, what you want to do when you're in that position, and when you are in how you showing up for these grassroots, when you know, like, what your organization is doing. And I get it, we all got to survive, we all got to live. Since I've been home, I've been doing multiple jobs, Madden. But how it started, you know what I'm saying? Even after money, all I was going to our young people, you know what I'm saying? Like, they call me, like, fuck that, we ain't taking no checks, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the young people got to, you know what I'm saying? Got to push it, organization got to go, we got to keep building up, we got to invest in them. And that's going to make us happy. go to school more, you know what I'm saying? Or make us have to work more 2 jobs and all that shit. I came in this game, like I said, from prison already knowing, or even before prison, knowing that me and my mans can come together, put some money together, and we can get the youth off the block, you know what I'm saying? We get them off the block, we want to move, we want to go bowling and all that. I knew that just from me and my mans, you know what I'm saying? Just me and my mans, I knew we could do that. In prison, when we was having our young brothers coming inside these classrooms, we told them we're going to give you some food and snacks. We're giving you some snacks and some tea and some juice and all that shit. We was going to the commissary, buying this stuff and bringing it. The administration wasn't giving us shit, you know what I'm saying? So I know how to survive on that shit. And I still eat oodles and noodles and all that shit to the day. Oodles and noodles, with the sausages, cut the things up and all that. So I know how to survive on another end to it. We need to go that route, you know what I'm saying? And I got a son, my son 21, you know, definitely. He want a car right now, you know. I'm just throwing this out there. Love him, you know, it's out there, whatever, I mean, but I'm just throwing it out there because it's about survival and shit, you know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, even if this is not here, our organization still got to do what we got to do because it's young people, it's our community that's looking up for us to do what we got to do. So Philanthropy needs to get on board and understand, yes, we need that paper. That paper is going to help us and help our community. This ain't really about us, you know what I'm saying? It's going to help us in our community. And understand that, come deep down, come look at it. When you read our shit, asking people questions. Go into a little bit deep and say, yo, what you meant by that? Because a lot of shit just fancy and all that, but what did you really mean by that? And then we can show you the proof. What did we mean by that? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say. Do they have the best interest? I think the interest is more so still caught up in the system. And the system, like how the brother said, you know what I'm saying? The system is, go get a degree. Once you get one degree, they say, go get another degree. And after you get that degree, they say, oh, you should get a master's and a PhD. And after you get that, you say, well, what do you focus on? You know what I mean? I don't even know if that's, even like, if you want to keep on going to that system, now you're way in depth, now you're still trying to fight this, like, survival shit. Right? You know what I'm saying? And come on, man. Like, let's do this, man. Like, but yeah, let's get out of that. Colorado,
let me just tell you, I'm so appreciative of that word from the gospel of AROCKS. It just touched my spirit in ways that I can hardly explain. You know, I tell people all the time, especially folks who do work with you, it's like working with your own baby. It's like literally, once you bring them in, they are yours. They're not just yours, you know, from 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. or the time you got them. They are yours. And to be able to work with you means that they got to know that, and you got to know that too. And it ain't cheap to raise babies, none of them. And what I do know, just like parents, I will make sure that kids have before I have any day. You know, and that means that folks who work with you, not only are they under-resourced, they're private, you know, because they are constantly on duty. They don't get a break. Nobody is coming through with babysit these other kids that don't belong to you, that belong to you, you know. And so, like, you know, what it means to really understand the idea of the work we do, the way we do it, is absolutely critical there. So, yeah, I want to thank you that before I could move on to our last question, because you are really close on time. Hey, Rob, I'm going to get one of those hats that's like that with a little pattern behind it. You want to hear something on live, and, like, here I am with this white shirt on. You know, and I'm like, I feel weird about this, because I got all this gear, and I can't have it. Okay? So I'm going to see you in the street, and you're going to have one before me, I'm going to take yours. So I want everybody listening to know, when it goes down, the idea celebration, what's that, right? Okay?
The reason why we wear the shirts and where we wear this hat is the real reason is, like, we want society to understand, like, I'm the founder of the house, you know what I'm saying? I was 26 years old when we found this Scott Prison, right? 26, found this Scott Prison. We want to fitted, do grabs, shirt, not just, that's swagger, that's us, you know what I'm saying? That's culture in one place. But reality is we need to understand that definitely some smart young brothers out there that wear their clothes the way they want to wear it. And you need to respect the fact and get into what their minds about. Because don't look at the fitting, don't look at the shirt as the mind is not there. The mind is definitely there. And they dope, and they brilliant, and they future leaders. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, come get y'all out of that too. I mean,
I'm coming to get
it's a holiday. It's a holiday.
Right. Listen, that our movements are resourced. Or if there was a recommendation you want to give to the organization that thinking about resource, being resourced. I want you to leave you the space for, and in mind, we only have a few minutes concisely. Tell us, what your recommendations are. And I'll let whoever wants to jump in. You see, y'all just got some directions, land the plane. But I love you.
All transparency, what I want to leave the panel with, and what I want the audience to know is that, invest in us. Come to Brownsville and see what's happening. Come to Brownsville. Do you know that in Brownsville there's no public high school? Mm-hmm. So our children was designed to fail. The nearest high school is Thomas Jefferson, and that is in East New York. That's why Brownsville have the highest dropout rate. And where there is a community with no education, there's the community of a bunch of chaos, violence, high pregnancy, high STD, STI, all of those things. Like, just stay woke and invest in us. Come to where we at. We're around. We're around. That's my recommendation. The work is still going to get done. Not to say that we don't need the money, but because we are so passionate, we still going to do the work. Still going to do the work. That's all I have to say.
To the funders, just preview this. They recorded it. Just preview it and look for people that had a passion, heart, and that are doing the work at the same time. If you're a legacy and H.O.L.L.A, I'm pretty sure that paperwork is 100% better than mine. But I'm so far behind in summaries and people that, how you got to send people to see you great, you got to send them back what you did and all that type of stuff. So if you have the data, to the organizations that have the data, have that, keep pushing it to them, but also to the organization, make a documentary of yourself and of the young people that you're working with. Put that inside your package, because when those people hear from the live people that you're working with, those little girls are sleeping on the couches and how you move forward. You make the late night calls for bail or they have situations and stuff like that. Sit down and do a video of some of those situations so they can see the impact that you're making. You got to learn to package up what y'all got and learn to get on some of these calls. Like I'm going to keep saying it till the end. Fund Police Now, Families of Incarcerated People's Movement, CJI. These are the ones that, regardless of if they denied you last year, they still may pick you up because we just been through a hell of a year. These last 2 years, everybody has been through a hell of a year, especially grassroots. So we're coming out of a pandemic. The pandemic might be about to pick up, but as long as you got that heart and passion, and just like what you said before you passed the mic, we gonna do the work regardless. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do the work regardless. But that funding makes it even stronger and impactful. And again, we don't want to fight with each other. So when Brownsville goes to these different things, we all come with you to help support you in these asks, because the asks are right now. It ain't next year, it ain't next month, it's right now. You know what I'm saying? It's right now. ARP, whatever it is, all AP, and you have to put it in now because there's no going to be another time, I think, in America where this type of financial funding is available. We have to figure out how to get to it. We have to figure out how to demand it. We have to figure out how to make it, as Juan said, make it relevant to our kids' future, not for this organization's profit for the next 6 months so they can say they go to this or that non-profit profit or whatever it is. We got to merge that and build it for our community, inside our community. The way we can do it is if we together. If you don't like somebody on a certain call, we got to put all that to the side. If I did something to you 2 years ago, we got to forget all that because our kids' future and the future of our incarcerated family that's still inside there depends on us. Depends on what we do with these balls and even those little bags, because the little bag needs the big bags. And if y'all have that structural foundation, get out there and go get it. best thing we got right now is hope. It's other. Whoever's listening, whoever's on these calls, and we got H.O.L.L.A, Pure Legacy, Mom, and everybody else. So let's not only make this a webinar, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why I wasn't invited to that 20 organization thing that H.O.L.L.A just did, but invite me next time so we can all come out, and I'll invite y'all out here to roll out something. You know what I'm saying?
Marcellus?
Oh, all right. I was making sure that was the one. I didn't miss one. That's all.
Thank you.
Let's make sure we stay together, man. Not just on webinars, but keep each other in touch. Because we kind of that virus and we lost touch. Me and H.O.L.A came back together. But H.O.L.A's a bigger part of all those CJIs, Families of Incarcerated People's Movement, Fund Peace Now, and the different organizations that are around. Y'all gotta get on those calls. Y'all gotta get that information. Y'all gotta get them grants out now, because it's going down now. My last thing, that's it.
Well, thank you, Marcellus. Juan, bring you in really quickly before we close it out.
So a few of them, you gotta fund our communications and infrastructure. Because I saw organizations quickly move to the next level because of their social media strategy. And I saw it like some of them they're out there living in the East. I saw exactly how they went. They invested super heavily on social media. And it says she took the algorithm, just like ran this like a campaign, right? So, bang, that one. The other one is, right now, a lot of funders, they can't get money to us, right? They'll say that shit because of IRS status. So whenever they give money to that big organization, hand out the money, you gotta check them. But you always gotta talk to the person on the ground, being the recipient of the 10,000 or 20,000, while the motherfuckers get hundreds of thousands. And then a lot of times they lock you out because the grant went to them, you can't even access the funders and shit. Like, look, we're being banked over here, or you know what I mean? So please do due diligence in that, because we get bamboozled in the contractual negotiations and a lot of shit right there that we have no understanding about. The other one is, don't make this about numbers, make this about growth, scale, and potential, right? Like, we're in a growth process. Do not limit us to Western analytics, right? That's around numbers and data. That's not the way to fund the movement. The other one is fun, like this cultural work. Like, this, don't, like, understand funding this work right here. Like, just for this, to spread it out more. I haven't seen a group that's as diverse and thinking radically like this in a long time. So thank you, H.O.L.L.A, for bringing me in. Marcellus, Sister NaQuasia, Shonda, thank you muchas gracias.
Thank you so much for that. Y'all, I could sit with each and every one of you and do this all the time for a long time. It has filled my spirit and my soul in ways that I can't hardly explain right now. I'm very lifted. I hope that you guys are too. Thank you all for including me and for trusting me to hold this space. This is a really important conversation. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to AROCKS to close this out.
Simon said, that's real key, man. We hear this a lot, people in the police, you know what I'm saying? What I would say is, defund the police and refund the community. Say let's stop putting mad money into our military system, into our golden state system. Let's start putting money back into the land. Let's start putting money back into the communities. Quasia just said it. You got a community that you know is a part of the 7 neighborhoods that fill up the prison system. This is written, this has been going on for the last so many years, maybe 40, 50 years. But that community don't have a high school. That is just crazy. You hear what I'm saying? That is just crazy in itself. Even working at Brownfield when I first came home from prison, you had the school, this was a wolf, because I didn't have this when I was growing up. But you had a school that had 5 different schools inside of it. And these just multiple schools all around New York City. Still in the low, and it's time and all that, you know what I'm saying? I want to just end by saying, let's refund the community. Let's put money back into the community. Let's put money into the grassroots organization that's really doing the work. Shout out to all the organizations that's doing the work. And Harlem, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Long Island, everywhere, across the states, Cali, New Orleans, Mississippi, Atlanta. Shout out to all of y'all that's doing the work, man. Shout out to everybody that's on live right now, that's listening. Check out our organization, check out our links, click on us, read more about us. If you know somebody that knows somebody, just put it out, man. And, we're about to sign off, man. This is love, this is care. We appreciate you. And thank you, NaQuasia, for being a part of this. You know what I'm saying? Girl Legacy in the building. Thank you, Juan Gomez, for being a part of this. Bill Buzz's in the building. Shawnda, thank you, man. Thank you for being this, hosting this, doing this, did your thing. Marcellus is the big road. This is the connector. This is another link. When I think about myself as being an elder brother, I look at my brother like Marcellus. I look at Brother Lab. I look at many things about my pops. They just swag is just official, and as men that can connect to young people, it's just official. A lot of young people love Marcellus. Like when we out, we turn it up, and about this work, and he's always putting people on the spot. Like just let the runners know what it is, and also we got grassroots on a lot of kids and shit that we don't have, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? But man, this was a blessing, man. This was dope. I think we're gonna drop another song, maybe from Alice album, maybe from the report bag. This is our album. Go check out our documentary. This is a beautiful webinar. H.O.L.L.A. Thank you all for being a part of this 5-part series. Y'all went through each and every day. Y'all doing this every week. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you. We're still watching, listening, and at work, whatever. You can still catch this on YouTube, at HOLLA.TV.com. Subscribe. Click the likes, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends, man. Thank you, man. I saw movements in the building, man. So we think the 40 years, they call the tech people. We out here, man. Keep going on, but yeah, we out here. Thank you for all the questions on Facebook, man. We got them. All the love, man. We appreciate y'all. Holla. This is how I report. Yeah. Peace. Holla.
What's yours, you know? I swear I treat you like what's yours, you know? This world's a war, what you fighting for. We using fists, knives, guns, and swords. Try to take what's mine, I'll take what's yours. Try to take what's mine, I'll take what's yours. They wanna kill me, they only wanna do me filthy. So much fear in me, I can see what it will be. I'm sweating, knees weak and walls forget the pull up. I'm reflecting at the same time, should pick the good route. But how many knows in their lifetime, meaning like mine? But the system have you played out the way it's designed. You can't reform something you can't redefine. It's the world's culture, kill them slow and eat them like vultures. And when you born, you ain't what they told you. Ask myself, is this my fate? Making mistakes, these the breaks, raise the stakes. Might as well retrace the traits and take the place. Cause you've been living in a time loop, but you can't escape. The right is left and down is up. The ground erupts and now they get crushed. The air has touched the fumes, it's lost. The town is tough, but doesn't mean the town ain't rough. It's yours, you know? This world treat you like what's yours, you know?